Welcome to Fitzon's Property Exchange, hosted by Pearl Skeltimer, designed to keep you informed and captivated about the South African residential property market. Subscribe to our channel today and enjoy conversations with some of the most influential, innovative, and interesting industry experts, stakeholders, and scheme executives as they render input in today's property market.
Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to Fitzon Estate's very first property exchange. I'm both excited and privileged to introduce my first guest, a reckoned property investor, an experienced landlord, an accomplished businessman, a man with a plan, they say, and a brilliant ally in our property industry. A very warm welcome to Lloyd Monday. So Lloyd, where did all of this start? How did you get into real estate?
Hi, good afternoon, Pearl. And thank you for the invitation to speak with you this afternoon.
Pleasure.
To be quite honest, I don't think I can remember when I was not involved in real estate. From, I think, the fifth year when I started working already, I had started investing in real estate. Like most people, you want to get rich quickly and you want to get rich easily. And I couldn't find a better opportunity than the real estate. It's a really simple recipe. I thought you buy a property, you put a tenant in, the tenant pays your bond. Maybe there's a bit of a shortfall for the first 3 or 4 years that you have to chip into to keep things going. But then you break even and then you start making a profit, And I thought this couldn't be easier. This is a simple recipe and we just repeat it over and over. I also realized early in my career that unlike my grandfather who worked for one place his whole life, and unlike my father who didn't jump around much either, corporations weren't really going to look after me, so I had to look after myself. So even though I had a profession, I did this on the sideline, and it worked quite well because most of your real estate activity happens after hours, so that was also a bonus. So I started by buying my first property, paying most of it off, and then buying the next one, and carrying on that way. Also joined a lot of investor clubs, read a lot of books, met people along the way, and learned to accelerate this process through a bunch of techniques, but the one that particularly jumps to mind is refinancing. And so I've built up a portfolio now of approximately 55 properties, which keeps my wife busy apart from anything else. And it's treated us well.
That's awesome. Impressive. Thank you for sharing that. And strange times we live in now. Unfamiliar territory, lockdown. Could we have ever guessed that COVID would happen to us?
Well, no, not in my wildest dreams, but something similar, yes. In, 2008, when the global financial crisis hit us, we also didn't believe that this could happen. Strangely enough, it had already started to manifest itself in the United States, and our local financial gurus were still telling us not to worry. South Africa's got a very conservative banking sector, and we're a robust economy, and this ain't going to happen to us. And soon afterwards, it did.
I can remember that, yes.
Yeah. So, in real estate, I think that is one thing we need to be prepared for the unexpected. And COVID is just another one. But these things happen.
Yeah, in any investment, I suppose there's risk involved. But specifically, how did COVID affect your rental portfolio?
Well, if we go back till March all was still well. We collected 100% of our rent. April, things dipped a little to 96%. And then in May down to 85%. And I can still remember watching the rents come in on my bank statement and thinking these tenants are crazy, man. if I was living through this situation and lockdown and you're unsure of your future income, I would be keeping some of that money back. But no, 85% of them paid. And then in June, also 85% collected, but things are a little better now in June, because in May, the 15% that didn't pay were still living in the flats, where in June they've already started to move out, and we've started to fill them with other people that are just in a more fortunate position. Having said that, I must also say that I think I've done a lot better than most other people. A close friend of mine, for example, has only collected 30% of his rent. So he's in a much worse situation. And I think it's because I tend to screen my tenants more thoroughly than most people. I would rather take a vacancy than take a poor tenant. And so I think my tenants just generally are in a better position to weather the storm. But yeah, in a sense, we're also fortunate. And one asks, how does this make a person feel? I think one's a bit angry about the illogical or seeming illogical decisions that are made by government and enforced upon us. One tends to feel you can deal with a virus, but not this misinformation and that sort of thing. But so generally, I think we're still cautiously optimistic that things will return to normal, or the new normal, as I talk about, because people will always need a place to stay, and that's what we provide,
Awesome. I indeed intend to agree with you. You are a very lucky man. If I listen to and I see the figures and stats of some of my landlords, they are much worse off. So I'm very, very happy to hear that. So, what do you think would your remedy be for this situation?
Well, I look at this from basically three perspectives, or three markets that I operate in. My tenants, for example, in Centurion, Ferry Glen, Garsfontein, those sorts of areas, they're all fine. I haven't had a challenge with any of them. Flats in the inner city and Pretoria West took a bit of a knock, but the people are already coming back. They're already paying off their debt, or the arrears that accumulated during the lockdown. My biggest challenge personally is really the room rentals in Sunnyside. And this is mainly due to the way the institutions of learning have been affected. And we haven't really got to the end of that yet either. One of my tenants last week said that the university had now gone virtual with his course till the end of the year, so he doesn't need accommodation anymore, so he left town. And yeah, I think that's still a bit uncertain. Also, I've had tenants that have worked for the Spur, for example, for 8 or 9 years. And the restaurants, as you know, are still closed. We don't know how that's going to turn. So that's a bit of a challenge. Bottom line, I don't think there's any silver bullet. We'll just chip away at refilling the places that are empty. And let's hope that things don't deteriorate even worse. You might find people going back to work, but the work is not economically sustainable, for argument's sake, if you have to run a restaurant and it's only half full, So I think this could actually drag on for a while.
Thank you. It's indeed sad stories that we have to listen to every day. So from what you just said, it seems like your non-payers have cooperated. Would you say that?
Oh, definitely. I haven't really had much of a challenge. One of the challenges, for example, was when lockdown was announced, many of my tenants actually left town. It's like the December holidays.
Sure.
The CBD empties. Everybody goes back to their rural villages and things like that for times like that. So I had non-payers, but the flats, in fact, were empty, locked and empty. But now that they're back, these people have religiously paid their rent for a long time, and they feel rotten themselves that they're not able to keep up with the payments. So I think, we speak to them regularly, and we just find out what the situation is. And many of them will send you a letter and it says as soon as lockdown's over, they're going back to work, and then it's fine. We ride the storm out with them. Others, we've had to have a conversation and say, you know what, waitering's not coming back for a long time. And they've realized it themselves, and they've either found other work and said, hang on, or they've actually moved out. So yes, they've been great. I really can't complain. And I'm not one for evictions. I don't even start the legal process. Also, again, because of my unique situation, I can't afford a 30,000 Rand legal collection process on a property that's rent is 3,000 or 4,000 Rand a month, So the legal framework really is not supportive of someone in my position. And so we operate in a different way.
You really do sound like an awesome landlord. And from this, I take that communication is indeed key. That brings me to the next question, perhaps an unfair question. How long do you think will it take to recover from this? Will we ever?
I'm sure we would. Everybody needs a place to stay. So I think from our perspective, we may be better placed than somebody else. I was just talking to a financial planner yesterday, and I said to him, I'm in this business because my great-grandfather lived through the Depression. And he told me that, you had to, the guys that did the best then were people that were qualified, had good jobs, stuck it out, and people that had property. And so in the back of my mind, I've always thought it's a good idea to have real estate because it'll help one in times like this or difficult times like they even went through. But he was correct in bringing to my attention that they lived in different times and in different situations, and that's how it panned out for them. Our story is probably going to be different. We're seeing companies like Zoom's profitability go through the roof, all the virtual technologies and that sort of thing, and we're going to see other markets collapse. So it's very difficult. They talk about this new normal. We're not going to go back to what things were. Things are going to be different. And so, yes, maybe my student accommodation or young professional accommodation part of my business is not going to be the same. But, people will still need a place to live. And fortunately for that, that'll help us.
Fortunately.
Yeah.
Great. I would like to know the role or services of a rental or managing agent. What is your opinion on this?
Well, in short, they're totally indispensable. I've seen many buildings try and manage themselves, go into what they call self-management, and it's a disaster. Even in the smallest of places, in a case where there were 4 units in a building. I owned one and another guy owned the other 3. Even then, between us, we couldn't get the discipline right of holding AGMs, of voting, of not fighting about things.
We do that often, don't we?
Yeah, I tell you, to get your priorities aligned. And so, I think the managing agents are indispensable in terms of just keeping the peace. And giving legal advice when one needs to make decisions. Often, and I'll phone you and say, I'm wanting to put in water meters. How do we go about this? What is a quorum? How long do we need to give notice? All those sorts of things. The managing agents ensure that we adhere to the Act. They help resolve disputes, which are a constant thing between owners. They ensure that all the bills get paid on time. And I think they deal with difficult vendors. I mean, if you take the city of Tshwane, if you've got a problem with them, man, you need to specialize in dealing with vendors like that. And the managing agents are great at building relationships there. The other thing is they buy services in bulk. So insurance or financial services like drawing up annual financial statements, when you give a company 100 blocks to do, you get a very good price, which is not going, which you're not going to get on your own. I think it's a thankless job, but someone has to do it. Again, I don't really get involved as much. I try to be as uninvolved as possible. If you go to these AGMs or you're involved with big buildings where you've got groups of 20 or 30 people all trying to pull in their own direction, I found that wastes my time. So I tend to leave that in the hands of the other owners and let them fight it out and hopefully come to good decisions among themselves. But where I do get involved is in small buildings. So often you'll have a building with 6 units, 4 units. You hold an AGM, none of the owners pitch. So in that case, I do get involved closely with the managing agents and we run the buildings. But as soon as anybody else wants the job, they're welcome to it.
Yeah, it's so good to hear that there are some of our investors, landlords, members of body corporates that realize the challenges we are faced with day to day. So lastly, what will your advice be for future investors? Do you think that it's still worthwhile investing in property specifically?
Oh, very much so. And that's why I'm still in the game. I think, one of the things one needs to do, or new investors, they really need to identify a niche, a certain type of property that they're interested in. I see people battle when they've got one property in Durban and one in Pretoria and one year. I think you're really making life for yourself difficult. So, choose a niche. It could be Airbnb sorts of business you want to do, or it could be holiday accommodation, or it could be student, or whatever it might be. But choose a niche and stick to it, The other thing is you need to be consistent and tenacious. I don't think you must be in a hurry. Real estate takes time.
True. Long-term investment.
Yeah, you get these youngsters that are all energetic and they'll buy a property, do it up, flip it, sell it, buy next one, flip it, sell it. You can do that, but I haven't seen many people doing it for too long. The taxes and transaction costs just kill you in that sort of a thing. But I mean, if you want to, that's open to you to do as well. I'd also recommend for young investors to become a trustee. Get to know the inner workings of the market and your fellow investors at AGMs and so on. It's great to meet other people in the same boat and exchange war stories. And I'd also say don't get despondent. I've, people, I want to sort of link that with you need to build up a good network of suppliers, or people that can help you. I've seen people sell a flat because of a blocked toilet. Tenant will phone at 8 o'clock at night, his toilet's blocked, and the guy freaks out because you don't know a plumber. And so this is a major issue now. The next day you've got to get on the phone and the yellow pages, and you're getting a stranger in there, and then they hit you with a call out fee of, argument's sake, 1,000 rand. So you feel ripped off. And then you get so despondent with the property, you just sell it, because it's become a headache. So you got to get a good network of suppliers around you. If someone phones me with a problem like that, it's no problem. I just WhatsApp electrician Rodney and say fix, and I know he's not going to rip me off because we've worked together for years.
Thank you, Lloyd. I found this so informing. It was lovely to chat to you. One is indeed never too old to learn something new. I really found great value in talking to a player in our industry. So, ladies and gentlemen, I certainly hope you found this informative as well. I'm looking forward to have much more of these chats. Fitz-Anne Estates, your one-stop property administrator.
This was Fitz-Anne's Property Exchange, hosted by Pearl Skeltimer. Not only do we keep you informed on the very latest in the property industry, we also empower by expanding your knowledge base. Make sure to visit www.fitsan.co.za to find out more about sectional title scheme management, letting, sales and trustee training. Remember to subscribe to our channel and follow us on all our social platforms.